The North American brush manufacturing industry is special and unique. And there's a variety of things that make us special and unique. And one of the things I think that makes us so unique is that we don't get any respect. Brushes are an item that people take for granted in their everyday life. They're ubiquitous, they're all around, we take them, again, we take them for granted. We don't really think about them much, but we can't live without them. We use them every day. The average American household has at least 30 brush products in it. Toothbrushes, hairbrushes, interdental brushes, floor sweeps, paint scrapers, garage push brooms. There is bathroom brushes. There is a variety, an endless variety of brush products that we touch in our personal life every day. There are a variety of uses in industrial, in medical, in scientific. They're everywhere, they're all around us, and yet they get no great trade press. They have no panache. They don't have any marvelous selling features, but we frankly can't live without them. So we have this unique industry that is surrounded by people who spend their entire life work crafting and creating and inventing and sculpting and working on brushes to be used in everyday life without the glory that comes from more popular or more celebrated products. That makes us unique. So we have a chip on our shoulder a little bit, which doesn't necessarily give us a bad attitude, but it lends us a sense of collegiality. We have a language that we speak that others don't speak. So when we get together in our nerdy little brush community, we can talk about things like tuft retention, and we can talk about crimp and amplitude, and we can talk about all of the unique fibers that we use, like bassine and Tampico and and pig hair and all this crazy stuff that means a lot to us that a lot of other people sort of really take for granted. And in reality, for the people who are involved in the industry, it's creativity, it's invention, and it's creation of wealth. What manufacturing brings is a manufactured product that is traded then for money, and that wealth comes back not just to the owners, but to the workers and the staff people and the community and the schools and the roads and the infrastructure and the charitable organizations that are embedded within that community. There is a lot of wealth generation that is created and shared that starts in that room. And that room gets filled with people. And the people go to work and they use their craft to make products that others crave, and then the trade begins. But the sense of walking through a factory is really amazing. And it truly is a manufacturing love story. And so it's another thing that makes this industry so unique, is that when you talk to people who are in it, they're proud of what they do. They love their craft. They love their trade. These brushes are wacky, and we're wacky, but it all works. And there is a tremendous sense of pride and ownership that comes with being a part of this great industry.
As an honor to have this company in our community. I mean, just look at all of these wonderful brushes made right here in our town. Now, this started with Mary's great-grandpa, all the way back to 100 years ago, when Opa Thomas, right off the boat, made this. His very first brush. Simply amazing. But from that one brush, made by hand, to over 50,000 brushes per day, right in this state-of-the-art facility behind me. Now, whether you have a hand in it or not, you just simply have to be in awe.
Are you in awe, Grandpa?
I sure am.
May I introduce the president of this fine company, Opa's great-granddaughter, Mary Thomas Price.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Wow. As my Dad is fond of saying, the first 100 years are always the hardest. It gives me great honor to be able to carry on a family tradition this day. Thank you, Dad, and thanks to our employees and business partners. All of you are vital to our success. God willing, we will pass it on to our children and our children's children. By cutting this ribbon, we open doors to the future while keeping our principles intact. We prove that American-made products can be better than imports, that families can grow and flourish while living in a small community. Thomas Brush Company is like any brush manufacturer in America, providing a win-win for us all.
Jenny, they're coming.
Wow, the Bruin are coming!
Oh, go see, go see!
The Bruin are funny.
You know what happened?
Are you 100, Grandpa?
What? Why, what is no, it's the company's on. Although we've been making brushes for hundreds and hundreds of years, back in Europe.
When did you start
What?
making brushes?
Oh, well, my grandpa taught me, and my father Fritz. We came here as immigrants from Europe. First, Fritz and Sally came, and then they called for my grandpa, your great-great-granddaddy. We called him Opa. For hundreds of years, brushes were made the same way all around the European continent. A craftsman would carve out a single wooden block. They would then stuff it with natural fibers, one tuft at a time. That all changed when increased demand meant consumers needed brushes in quantity. Created with American ingenuity, cam-driven machines were built to assist the workers. Many years later, robotic machines were designed that could take over the more difficult tasks in making brush products, while speeding up production. Fascinating, isn't it? That this transition took place without sacrificing quality.
The brush industry has roots that go back, to Europe for the most part. A lot of the early immigrants came over here and they started companies. A lot of the CNC equipment was invented here, started here, and then the Europeans picked up on it. Little small brush companies adapted machine tool CNCs to their cam-operated machines, and that was the beginning of what you see now.
Many immigrants that came over to the United States in the early 1900s brought that brush making skill set to the U.S.
Well, my grandfather was a bristle dresser originally in Russia. This is in the 1800s, the late 1800s. And he ran away from Russia so that he wouldn't be in the Tsar's army.
If there's a hero for me, it has to be my great-grandfather, because his dream has supported our family and the families of our employees for 4 generations.
Fritz and Sally were my parents and came to America with my brother Thomas and sister Dorothy before I was born.
I can work. You can't do 2 jobs.
Maybe for a while. Vater!
We're glad you're here, Opa.
Your letter said things were schrecklich, terrible.
There's not much work, and the hours are long.
I can't sleep, Mata.
I will work.
No, Vater. You brought your tools?
I have made brushes my entire life. Why not here? I made these for you.
For me? Oh. Look, Mama.
Grandpa soon learned that different brushes required different fibers. For hair and toothbrushes, he would gather horse and hog hair from local farms. Sable and camel hair made fine artist brushes, and goat hair for cosmetic brushes. Filaments came from a variety of sources. Palmyra came from palms in India. Tampico for cleaning brushes from agave plants in Mexico. Even skunk hair was used to make better writing instruments. Years later, the discovery of synthetic materials would make it possible to produce custom fibers by extruding them into different compositions and textures. Today, brushes use both natural fibers and synthetics.
The hand-laced brushes are filled with all the filaments, horsehair, steel, whatever the customer requires. And what's necessary in the hand-laced brushes is the having an operator, because it's very labor-intensive, who knows what she's doing and can do it very fast, and that is taking the filament and hand-lacing it through wire and pulling it through the hole in the block.
This is processed hair, and we blended it in mixing machines. We had 5 mixing machines, like today in Mexico, and we used to sell them the horsehair in 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and they made a polishing brush, and we used to sell them tons and tons of horsehair.
I'm off.
Our whole family would help Opa make the brushes.
Wiedersehen.
Then Dad would head out, knocking on door after door to sell them. Getting brushes into the hands of American consumers was a formidable task. The early 1900s saw America growing exponentially. Craftsmen and their salesmen went door to door, sometimes selling brushes one at a time. The hands-on approach was being copied all over the country, and it enabled American housewives to see the quality and diverse uses of different brushes. 100 years ago, U.S. brush makers and filament suppliers saw an opportunity to make their business flourish by joining forces. The American Brush Manufacturers Association was formed in 1917. Even though many of these businesses competed with each other, they found a synergy by associating together. This entity brought them together to network, create influence on outside entities, and enjoy each other's company. The primary advantage I saw was that the unsurpassed quality of the resources and resulting brushes and brooms has continued to today.
What used to happen in the old days where literally a guy would drive his cart down the street trying to sell brooms and things for people to use in their houses to clean up.
All the small companies needed a headquarters and to get together and meet other brush companies and just help to grow the industry.
Oftentimes, my dad would take the train, and he soon found that Americans were eager for all well-made products. My grandpa's brushes were a success. As the year went by, we rented out spaces and had to keep moving. Sometimes into smaller buildings, sometimes bigger. If America prospered, our company prospered. World War I, the Depression, World War II, somehow our business survived.
In the brush business, there was an emphasis shift from industrial manufacturing, where they were making consumables and appliances for people and things like that at the time, to all of a sudden where the whole economy shifted over to military production. And then the engineering on all of those products kind of kicked into high gear, and the demands for more precise parts came, and brushes were used in the finishing of those parts. The engines that they were coming up in World War II were like nothing anybody had ever seen, and the performance was critical. So in order for those to be able to be made by the plants, they had to achieve tolerances that you couldn't get with normal cutting tools. So brushes were used in the process.
It was easy for me in the broom business because the government couldn't get enough brooms. Unbelievable how many millions of brooms they used in the Navy, the Army, just unbelievable. Every hut had a broom and they used them for everything. Something broke, you needed a wedge, you took the broom handle, you break the broom, you threw it away, you get a new one. It was the tool of everything. And so it was very simple for me. We didn't worry about contracts, we just made brooms for the Army.
We make all of these here?
Absolutely. We have a visitor, Dan.
Harold, you've come to learn the trade.
Dad was very thorough in teaching me the trade. I found brush making fascinating. Something about the combination of sweat, art, technique, and craft, all coming together to create something useful. And it also allowed us to work together. A true family affair. Dad knew that his kids would one day take over the company from him, just as your mom has done from me.
There are so many family businesses involved. I got involved with my family, which was started in 1922 by my grandfather, then my father, then there are three brothers, two brothers and myself involved in the business. And we're not the only business like that. In fact, we're probably maybe 60 or 70% of the members are family businesses.
There's a lot of family businesses in ABMA, and always have been. I imagine there always will be.
We're actually fourth generation family members in family companies. Zephyr was started in 1927 by my great-grandfather Harry.
The industry is a fantastic industry. It covers every single walk of life. Every single industry out there has got a brush in it somewhere. And all of these guys make thousands and thousands every day. They don't only make brushes that are on the shelf. They don't make brushes that are bespoke. You'll come with a problem, they'll solve your problem. And the brush is sometimes the only thing that can do it best.
And of course, in the old days, things were pretty simple. Machines were very simple. Before they even had machines, they did everything by hand. And then they started to get creative and said, I think there's a way to do this where we can do it faster and make it more efficient. The Industrial Revolution hit the brush industry and gave us much more speed, much more productivity, much more performance, and allowed us to make products that could be sold in mass quantities.
I think one of the biggest innovations in the brush industry was the invention of synthetic filaments. You know, when we went from horsehair and materials like that to synthetic nylons, where you get some longevity out of the brushes and some real value.
When the number of products grew, the number of employees, the scale of quantities, everything grew. The brush industry was, and remains, a great business to be involved in. Did you know family-run businesses employ 2/3 of jobs in America? My daughter is a fourth-generation brush maker and supervises people running machines that place 1,000 tufts a minute into modern plastic brushes. Absolutely amazing. But these products don't make themselves. A great product means a factory led by knowledgeable problem solvers. Companies like ours add benefit to our workers, their families, the community. A man or woman comes to our factory every day to work. They have a family to provide for, a community that they are involved in. I am proud to carry the responsibility of all of this, and so is my daughter. People like to make things that benefit others.
When I was in grade school, I used to clean up the shop after the women got through working with all the brushes. The women were making handmade brushes, you know, wire-drawn brushes. Whole new ball game today, you know. The owner had a boat. We used to go down the Connecticut River, go down the shore, you know, and different things, different outings. They'd take me, like I say, I was treated as like part of the family, you know.
So Draper Knitting was established in 1856. We were a knitted lace company, knitted woolen lace back in that day, and has developed over the years through 6 generations, 160 years of business. To incorporate 3 types of fabric formations. One of those is high pile sliver knit, which goes into paint rollers. So again, paint application, but safety products such as liners for race car driver suits and firemen's turnout gear. We have about a little over 30 employees. Some of them are multi-generations of different families. Some of them have been here. We have an employee who we just celebrated 46 years here at Draper Knitting. But a lot of the employees come and they stay for their whole career, which is incredible.
Back in 2011, I was diagnosed with lymphoma. And it was a really difficult time for me and my family both. And so what happened was when I returned back to work after treatment, and even during treatment, the Brush and Broom Manufacturing family, who I worked for, reached out to me and helped me out a lot. It was really comforting to know that they were there when I needed them. And now that I'm back at work, what they do is they allow me to be able to fundraise for the American Cancer Society. So being part of the Brush and Broom family, it really means a lot to me. And they do a lot to give back to their communities. Like, it's an extension of your family. You're here more waking hours than you are at home. So they try to make it feel like a home environment.
I was hot for new technology and machines, but Thomas worried that we'd have to let employees go if machines became automatic. In the end, it all worked out and we had years of prosperity. I was completely in awe of the whole process of making things. Grandpa, Opa, Dad, Mom were hand-sewing tufts into a wooden block. And nowadays, the factory is cranking out thousands of quality brushes a minute. Even after Thomas retired and Doris went to work for her husband's filament company, I still came into the office every day. We had a good life, except for the occasional roadblock or family tragedy. Our machines were destroyed by the flooding. I couldn't believe it. Our employees and their friends and their family all came to get our place back in order. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hurricane Sandy in New York, New Jersey, several brush makers were very severely hit.
Every piece of equipment that we own, that we use on a daily basis to make our product, was under 5 feet of water for 5 whole days. Some of our employees came here literally while the water was still in the building. Their houses were flooded too. Many of them live in the local area. They were worried more about industrial brush than they were their own basements in their houses. They realized this is where they work. This pays for everything that they do. My cousin and I, as we stood in the water and looked at the mess, were wondering, hey, is this really game over for industrial brush? Is there going to be a 4th generation? But as we watched our staff work, their hard work and their efforts and their commitment, we changed our minds. Eventually the phone started to ring again, and our computers started to work, and that's really when it happened. You think a trade association is just a trade association. You go to conventions, you play golf, you get to know people, you go to cocktail parties, whatever. But when the chips are really down, that's really where you find out who your friends are. And a lot of those friends are ABMA members.
That was our biggest competitor.
They want to salvage our remaining inventory?
Actually, they've offered to fulfill all of our orders at no cost till we get back on our feet.
You are so wonderful, Dad.
Hey, you're wet. You're wet. Besides, I ain't done nothing. Well, maybe.
The brush is very important. So this brush is completely different. It's like this brush. So sometimes at the end, it's not the cream. And if I continue to dry, at the end it's gonna be mess. But I'm gonna use all my stuff because I get used to, and I know my brush is really good.
We're a parts manufacturer. We're probably one of thousands of different manufacturers to the automotive industry. So this year we'll probably produce 500 million pieces that'll go into the automotive industry. The brushes is we remove that burr. So this part goes into into a transmission component, and this is what is responsible for shifting your gears.
Okay, well we start in the washer, and the first brush is really rough, but there's only 6 brushes that way, and then we go to a more softer brush, and then more to a polishing brush, and then we go to the waxer, and that uses a different brush also with horsehair in it, and that's where we put our wax in, and that enhances the shine of the fruit. I'm in the citrus industry, and I can't do what I do without having brushes in my facility.
In watercolor, you really do need sable brushes. No other fur that works anywhere near as well as sable. It holds plenty of paint. It holds all the paint you need so that when you start doing a wash, it goes all the way through as long as you're as long as you have put enough paint into the brush in the first place. It's very, very difficult to imagine what art would be like if we didn't have brushes. When you think of the fabulous artists, Tintoretto, Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci, all of the fabulous work over the centuries, to imagine what it would look like if we hadn't have had brushes. It's impossible. It's a ridiculous thing to think, even.
Watching Mary take over the company was the proudest day. She is the fourth generation of our family to run the company, and our reach extends far beyond the shores of America now. Funny thing, my dad would walk the brushes over to the next town or city to sell them, sometimes one at a time. Here we are today, with brushes being used in every industry and every country we can ship to. Hey, you know, you may be the fifth generation, Thomas, to make brushes. Still usable after 100 years. Aren't they amazing?
Yes.
You like this one? Maybe nobody will notice.
Dad?
I just thought that...
But you just thought.
Uh,
This is a very valuable brush. It was made by your great-great-grandpa for my Aunt Dorothy. And your grandpa may be good at making brushes, but he still doesn't know the correct way to use your new brush.
Aha. She's right, you know.
I think the ABMA is sort of the glue that holds the brush industry together.
When they circle the wagons as an association, they aim their guns and shoot outward. They don't shoot inward at each other. And I think that's really what this experience has taught me.
Brush making in America's come a long way in 100 years, and we all can't wait to see what happens in the next 100. It may not be as cool as making the latest smartphone, but what we do affects every single one of us every single day, and will continue to do so well into the future. I think that means something. The art, the skill, the love story of making brushes. We love making brushes.